So this is Baruch here, Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and what we have tonight is a new series on Jewish history. And what we have here is a very famous man at his time, was a man by the name of Haim Beinhart. He was born from a Hasidic family in Russia. After the turn of the century, managed to escape to the Baltic states and then ultimately to Israel out of Russia. So this person became a tremendous scholar both at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and the Ben Gurion University in the Negev. His particular specialty was the study of the lost relationship of the Sephardic Jews to Spain. In other words, what was life like in Spain? But here we have an atlas of medieval Jewish history. And let me give you an idea what it's like. Let me open up here and see what I can do. A little bit of the background of the history of the Jews starting in the 5th century, which is in the 400s. Okay, this is approximately 400 years after the destruction of the temple, maybe 320 years, something like that, of the destruction of the temple. There was an ancient hatred between what was manifest as the Romans and the Jews. This is the ancient hatred of, so our rabbis say, of Esav and to Yaakov, and it's never really been extinguished. After Rome reached a certain height, subjugated the Jews, enslaved many, butchered many, tremendous massacres, and the hate never stopped. They were brought back to Italy in the farm as slaves, and from there they got themselves out. They ventured into Roman society, and then the different kinds of things that you happen now with the Jewish community living in various different places around the Mediterranean. And actually, we'll also look at the Ashkenaz community in Northern Europe. So here he starts over here with the invasions of the barbarian invasions of Europe. Now this may not be a subject that a lot of people want to know, but on the other hand, after you read this book a little bit, you'll understand that if you're Jewish and you're listening to this shir, that you're a remnant of people who have survived just unbelievable difficulty. So, and it's relatively, we're still here. So let's say like this, from the time, and he's going to get involved in this now, is at the time that Christianity began to spread throughout the Roman Empire, then the main enemy of the Christians and their new faith was the Jews. So here we start, so let me just show you something else. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. So here we have a picture, and I think we can get a little bit closer. We got to see a little bit what he's talking about. This is a map, okay, of course, and right here in this color right here is the Mediterranean Sea. And then you can see here's the Black Sea over here. Here's Hispania, or Spain, Gaul, which is France, and then going into these various different lands of different kinds of barbarian tribes and the Germanic tribes and so on and so forth. Here we see Italy. Now on this map, every time that you see a Jewish star, that means that there's a Jewish population there. And as you see all throughout the Mediterranean, Jews lived in many different places. They lived in parts of those places, let's say. Let me see 1 second. Looking for a pencil, I don't see one. So I found my pencil. So now you can see here's a Jewish star here, one over by Tripoli, one by Uzia. This is the north of Africa right here, down into Egypt, and all the different places in Egypt where you had Jewish communities, and then it goes all throughout this area, even in Vienna, and then going back into other places. Now, during this period of time, Christianity grew, starting in the 400s, and let's see what Haim Beinhart has to say. Now, we're going to read this, and then we're going to come back and we're going to look at the chart. The barbarian invasions of Europe in the 5th century. Everybody knows that Rome was really destroyed, so to speak, by the Vandals and others, as we'll see. And they began to filter into Rome and eventually took over the boundaries. So he says like this: the barbarian invasions of Europe in the 5th century, in the 400s. The invasions of various tribes collectively called the barbarians into the boundaries of the Roman empires caused great changes in Western Europe, and only the Eastern Roman Empire, which was called Byzantium, was able to withstand these invasions. The invasions wasn't like an army that came in, it was just like people came in. That's according to Dr. Henry Abramson, but lots and lots of them, like you have in the United States right now. You have an invasion from the South, or from all over the world really coming into the United States, but it's peaceful, it's not an army. But if enough of these people come, they change the character, and that's what happened, and Rome fell, and then Rome fell into Christianity. As far as the Jews, it was not the barbarian invasions that endangered their survival, but rather Byzantium and Christianity. From the time of Constantine, the Great, who ruled from 306 to 337, who granted imperial favor to Christianity, Christianity sought to populate Palestine, which was mostly Jewish people, with its co-religionists, by encouraging both pilgrimages to its holy places and settlement in the country. Bands of Christian monks, the Christian army, were the standard bearers of the church militant. Palestine and other Christian centers became arenas for disputations with Jews. What does that mean? Formal arguments with Jews with the intent of showing them that they're wrong. And Christianity sought to interpret these disputations as its triumph over Judaism. The Romans did win the war against the Jews. Christian tradition tells of whole Jewish communities that converted. For example, the entire Jewish community of Minorca, which is right here on the map. Let me just show it to you real quickly. It's right over here. It's an island between Italy and Spain. Spanish, really. So it tells the entire Jewish community of Minorca was converted by Bishop Severus in 418. It was during this period that Christianity began laying the first foundation for a comprehensive ideology concerning its ascendancy over Judaism. Now, you have to understand that the fight in Europe is going to become just that. Christianity over Judaism. The Jewish people were punished by crucifying Jesus, and the instruments of this punishment were Vespasian and Titus, who, according to this ideology, supported Christianity. Of course, they were several hundred years before Christianity, but this was their story. An extensive fabric of legends and folk tales was woven around the allegation that the Jews crucified Jesus, and the Jewish people were branded as killers of God. The church declared itself the heir of Judaism. They called it Veris Israel, the true Israel, and sought proof for this in the Bible. The existence of the Jewish people was necessary to enable the conversion of the pagans to Christianity, so you had to have that in order to make it possible to, sort of like as a guide for pagans to become Christians. Augustine is another what would you say, this is another Caesar, from 354 to 430. He was the Bishop of Hippo, which is a place apparently in North Africa. I'm not sure that I see where it is. Oh, here it is, and I'll show it to you a little bit on the map. So here it is right here. There was a Jewish community there. He found a justification for the humiliation of the Jewish people in this interpretation of Psalm 59:11. This is what it says. The power, he says, slay them not, lest my people forget. Scatter them by the power and bring them down. Slay them, that's the Jews. Not lest my people, the Christians, forget, so the Christians should not forget. the prophecies in the Bible foretelling the realization of Christianity and bring them, the Jews, down. Now this is this ancient war that we're talking about, but it's a very serious one. These were the tenets that guided Christianity in its war against Judaism over the many generations, that upon these foundations it built anti-Jewish public opinion, and this is going on for centuries, whose effects were apparent during the entire Middle Ages. Christian propagandists saturated the centers of the ancient world. The most prominent was John Chrysostom, 347 to 407, who determined the character of the struggle against Judaism. So this is a war where the Romans became the Christians and the Christians went to war against the Jews. But not the same kind of war. This is a war of religion. A struggle that was necessary for Christianity to emerge victorious in the pagan world. Nonetheless, the church fathers required the assistance of Jewish scholars to interpret and understand the Bible, because they really didn't know how to read Hebrew. So they learned the text. One of them, Jerome, which is also known as Eusebius Sophronicus, Hieronymus, 342-420 of Bethlehem, required the help of Jewish teachers in Palestine to learn Hebrew for his translation of the Bible into Latin. So you can see from this that this is a planned out approach of the church, which is the Roman state now, is really the heart of the Roman state. Now let's get a look at this, the way that, I'm going to try to bring this down lower too, so we can see it better. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, so this is the Mediterranean world, and this is the world in which the Jews lived at that time. And you see all the different places, as I pointed out, that there were Jewish communities all over, many, many different places. So the first thing he shows us, let's see if I can get this up. I have to bring this back a little bit. He says this is the boundaries of the Roman Empire. So that the dotted line, this is the dotted line. This is where the Roman Empire was. So it goes around like this, and I guess goes through the Visigoths, it goes through France, and like that. That's the Roman Empire. The direction of invasions by barbarian tribes, that's this arrow. So the arrows you see here that you have Huns coming from here, you have Vandals, and there's, I don't know how you pronounce it, Sueves, Lombards, Franks, different kinds of barbarians all started descending on Rome because there's a lot of money there, and they went in there for jobs, and then who knows what happened after that. So then let's go on a little bit. As we said before, the legend tells us that this star, the Jewish star, this is an area with a Jewish community. Now he has some other things he wanted to say. Some areas, he said a forested area densely populated by Jews. So here are places that are densely populated by Jews all across North Africa, all across the Italian peninsula, some places in southern Spain particularly, and over here in the Parthian Empire, which is really, I guess today is Iraq, that kind of area, and and Syria. He said these are places which had large, substantial, here's Greece, I've been going this way, had large, substantial Jewish areas. So, just he shows us on the bottom, just one more thing, decoration of a Jewish tombstone found in the catacombs in Rome. So, we were around. We were definitely around. But you see from what he has written that the church, taking over from the Romans, now the same places that the Romans had their main population centers, they later became main Christian centers. But specifically, we see that from what Dr. Beinhart said, that we find that the Romans started to concentrate on Palestine, the places where Jews were at, where they lived, and do whatever they could to mount this war. This is Baruch Fleischman, and this is the first in a series on Jewish history. And This is the Tikkun elevator color.